Yo, what's good with y'all boys? It's your favorite sneaker bar Jordan, aka Vixen, back with yet another video, man. Today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how you can cop a pair of Jordan 1 Volt Golds for retail. This shoe will be dropping tomorrow, January 9th, on sites such as Foot Locker, Champs, East Bay, Foot Action, Kids Foot Locker, and of course, Nike sneakers. Whether you're gonna be going manual or using bots, I'm gonna show you my personal setup that I use to cop shoes. There's said to be a little over 100,000 pairs for this drop, but I promise you, do not underestimate this, even though it may seem like a lot. You do not want to get caught lacking thinking this is easy, and just because people call them trash, I promise you they're still going to be on the site trying to get them. If you remember in December when they dropped the Kobe Grinches, people thought there was going to be 500,000 pairs for whatever reason, but obviously you saw that most people weren't even able to touch them. This happens every single release, so make sure to go full force by using these tips. For my bot people, I'm going to be showing you guys my setup for Tohru, ANB, Phantom, TSB, and Rattenfanger. And I'm also going to be showing you guys what proxies I use for this drop. For my manual people, I'm going to be showing you guys some tips and tricks you can use during the drop and how to prep for the drop so you can be more efficient. So we don't want to drag this intro on for too long, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The first bot we're going to be starting with is Tohru. If you know anything about Tohru, you know it kills foot side drops. So I'm going to be showing you guys how I set up Tohru and things you should be doing to set up on your copy. So now we're in the task overview. You see I have a huge range of sites such as Foot Locker, Champs, East Bay, Foot Action, everything you could possibly cover. So let's go ahead and see what one of these tasks actually look like. So for my task, I have a unique profile for most of them. Most of them are actually using the same profile across different bots, maybe 3 or 4 times. This isn't really recommended, but I like to spread out all my profiles across each bot just in case one does good and the other one does bad. But I would definitely recommend you going one profile to one task. So we see I have the SKU set up here, and I'm using random sizes. And also I have Holo Premium residential proxies, and I have the Datadome CAPTCHA turned off. So for some of my tasks, I'm gonna keep the Datadome CAPTCHA on. You should do about 50-50 split. So if you have 100 tasks, 50 of your tasks should be Datadome CAPTCHA while the other ones are not. People have said they had more success when they turn the Datadome CAPTCHA on for the actual release and then they turn it off for the restocks. I would definitely take this into consideration. If your tasks just aren't working, you want to switch up your setup, you should definitely try that. Then if we go into our settings, I have the webhook set up. I have staggering task on. Staggering task is so if you start 100 tasks, it'll start some of those tasks in increments. So it'll start 10, 10, 10, all the way until you get to the full 100. This way you're not overloading the server and you end up crashing your bot. I don't have AYCD, so I can't use auto solve, but if you do, I definitely recommend you using that, as there's going to be tons of captures popping up during the drop. Then if we go over to our foot sites settings, I'm running the restock delay at 5,000, timeout at 60,000 milliseconds, so that equals to 60 seconds. And then retry at 5,000. I may drop this down to 3,000. It just depends on how it's working during the drop. And then for the restock monitor proxy, I'm using local. If you're on a server, you want to change this to something that isn't banned on that site. So let's say my local server is banned on Foot Locker. You want to switch it to something like Holo Premium that you know isn't banned. This is what is actually going to be monitoring the task, so it picks up the SKU and actually lets the bot run. Another thing that I love about Tohru is whatever you have for the restock monitor proxy is going to use this proxy across the entire bot, and it's just going to use one proxy out of that list. So if you're using residential proxies, this is how you save data. It's just going to be using one task to monitor for all your tasks. So you're basically using nothing for hundreds of tasks. Another thing that I like to do in Tohru, since it added the task grouping, I like to separate my task into the mins versus the GS. So if the GS actually sell out, I could just go ahead and stop all of them or keep running for restocks, whatever I decide to do. Also, one last thing before we get off Tohru, you want to make sure that you have your CAPTCHA windows up. During the drop, you might be seeing tons and tons of CAPTCHAs. So in order to get these solved, you want to have the CAPTCHA windows up. Also, before the drop, you want to go into this browser tab and make sure that you're logged into your Gmail. This way you can get way easier CAPTCHAs during the drop. If for whatever reason you can't see this browser task, go ahead and throw in a proxy down here at the bottom. This is probably the issue since your local is banned or the proxy that you have is expired or banned. So that's pretty much it for Tohru. Very simple and easy setup. If you have any questions on how to set up Tohru on any other sites or any advice, leave your comment in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you on that. Now let's move into our next spot. Now we're on to Phantom. My Phantom setup is actually almost exactly the same as my Tohru setup. We're running for both the min and the GGS, and I'm running about 155 tasks. Each proxy is 1-to-1, so 1 task per proxy. You want to put as many proxies as you can. So let's say you have 150 tasks. You want to at least double it just in case it needs to rotate out those proxies if they get banned. Now for my delays, I'm using 3000 right now, but I might up it to 3500. That seems to be my sweet spot for Phantom. This is gonna be different for everybody. 3500 is just my sweet spot. It works with my internet and the proxies that I'm using. I definitely recommend you using from 3000 to like 4000. Just mess with those a little bit. If you're having trouble setting up Phantom, it's just a little irritating to go back and forth between the view task and the create task. I definitely recommend you going into the Google Sheet. With the Google Sheet, it's the same concept as doing it in Phantom, but this way you could easily just, let's say I wanted to enter some random SKU. I could just take all of them and just drag it down. That's easy. Instead of having to go in there and you get to put a different SKU every time you want to change sites, it just gets really messy. So definitely use the Google Sheet. I have the exact same setup. So the SKU, the site, I'm using random, my proxy list, profile, and I'm doing 1 checkout per profile. This is very important because you don't want to check out with the same profile. Most likely your order is going to be canceled, so be very, very careful when you do this. That's pretty much it for Phantom. Very simple setup. Make sure to utilize that Google Sheet. That's one thing that I love about Phantom compared to other bots. I wish every bot would just adapt to that. It's way easier to see, so definitely use that. Now we're onto my server. This is where I cook most of my shooters at. I'm sure you guys have seen this background in many of my videos. If you don't have a server, you should definitely get one. This server is hosted from Lucky Servers. If you can't afford a monthly server, you should definitely go check out AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, and also Google Cloud Web Services. The reason I'm able to cook so many shoes is because the speed on this server is absolutely insane. Let me just show you guys what my speed test was on my local machine. So this is my local machine. 8 ping, that's it's pretty solid. The rest of the specs, they're average, but let's see what it looks like on my server. My server is blowing it straight out of the water. The reason these speeds are so important is because when you're using proxies and you're sending from your home location to your proxy and then sending to the store server, this is a lot of things to do. So the faster you can do it, the faster you can check out. If you have a server like this and you're running data center proxies or some ISPs, you are absolutely gonna kill, I'm telling you. But that's enough about servers. I just want to give you guys that tip in case you ever wanted to know what I'm actually using. That's what I'm using. Now we're on to one of my new favorite bots. I just picked this up very recently and they've been having really promising results. I think out of all the bots that I'm using, this one is going to be the one to kill the most. With their new 1.0 coming up, they've been working on this extra hard. The devs have put in so much work. It's doing better than some bots that I've seen been running for years. So with my setup in this, is exactly the same as the other ones. I'm running, Foot Locker, Foot Action, East Bay, all that. Let's just jump into one of my tasks anyways and see what it actually looks like. So I'm running the min SKU right here. I'm running any size, my run proxies, got my profile set up, and the store is Foot Locker. One thing I love about this bot is when captures pop up, if you solve one captcha, it works for every single task. So if you have 20 saying solve captcha, you just gotta solve one of them. This is beautiful. I hate captchas. So for them to implement this, I really love it. They actually just added 2 captcha support, cap monster, anti-captcha. This is gonna enhance the experience so much more than it was before. We already weren't solving captchas, but if you have a 2 captcha key or any of these other services, you probably won't even have to touch the captcha the entire drop. So if you have any of these, I definitely recommend using them. For my delays, I'm running 3000. This seems to be the sweet spot. I've seen people cop 7 of the Kobe Grinches on 3000. So definitely use that. Also, before the drop, you want to come over to this quick harvester over here and you want to make sure that you're actually opening your harvesters so you can solve your captchas. So on this bot, I'm going to be running 293 tasks. I have 137 profiles and I'm going to be using just 2 harvesters. If everything goes well, this should be enough. I don't want to overwhelm myself with so many captcha harvesters across 4 different bots. It's going to be impossible for me to keep up. Like I said before, I think this is going to be the bot to kill this drop. I don't want to put too much pressure on this back, but you'll see my live cop. So now let's get into the next bot. So for the last foot size bot on our list, we're going to be using ANB AIO V2. If you've been in the botting game for a while, you know that this bot has been killing for a very long time. So for my setup on ANB, we're going to be running the min and GS SKU for every single site, which is across champs, East Bay, Foot Action, Foot Locker, all those other sites. Also, I tried to get it down to 1 profile per task on ANB. I actually did get lazy and didn't do this. As you can see, some of them are still all 15 or all 11, whatever, but try to get it down to 1 profile per task. So in here, we're using Hollow Premium Residential Proxies, Hollow ISPs, Live Proxies, Run Proxies, everything. If you notice, the first 2 lists have over 1,000 proxies, and you notice I only have 85 tasks. This is what you usually want to do. You want to put more proxies than you have tasks. If you have 50 tasks and 50 proxies, if one of them gets banned, what proxy is it going to rotate to? So that's the reason for having more proxies than you need. If one of my proxies get banned, it has tons of proxies to actually move through before I have to generate a new list. Before we move on to our next segment, let's go ahead and open one of these tasks and see what they look like. In here, I have Champ Sports, I have guests going on. I'm using the PID. You can find it on any of these sites that you're running for, like Champs and Foot Locker. It should be in the link, or you could scroll down below into the description. Or if you have a cook group, they should have these SKUs in their group. And then I'm running random sizes. If you go over here and you hover over the size box, it tells you what you could do with this box. So for foot sites, you can't separate it by using the AND. So for example, if I wanted to run a size 7.5 and a size 8, you cannot do this. You can only select one size at a time. So I will have to run a size 8 on this task, and then for the next task I will have to run a size 7.5. But if you don't care about your task, you could just simply just run random. And now onto my task delay. For every single task, I'm running 3,000 to 3,300. This seems to be the sweet spot for most people when they run ANB. I haven't ran it in a long time, so this still is experimental. If I do cop, you'll see that my live cop, and you know it works. If you're running for Shopify, you definitely want to use the AIO monitor. You can go in here and type in keywords. You can put Jordan and 1 and Volt. This way, it's going to go across all Shopify sites, and it's going to look for these specific keywords. And then whenever you see something pop up on the AIO monitor, it'll be glowing in orange. And from there, you could select what to do. If you want to create your task right now and run it, or copy the link over into another bot, you could definitely do that. And if you want to add some keywords into the negative monitor so you don't pick up certain products, all you have to do is go in here. I just pasted this, but you see how I have mid and I don't want to pick up low, GS, grade, preschool. This is how you do so. So now for the sensor harvester, you no longer need to generate cookies on your own. What you have to do is go into the bottom left and select sensor proxies, and you want to paste your proxy list in here. I definitely recommend you generating some separate proxies from the one that you're running on your task so they don't get banned. One last thing before we get out of here, you always want to go over to the top right and click logs. This is where you can see what's happening. So if I were to go ahead and start this task right now, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. You see all the steps that are going on. So it's saying that it's copying the random size and my delay, all that. If you see any errors in here, just let it run. Do not try to stop it. Do not try to do anything else. The only way you're gonna have to stop it is if your proxies are bad. So that was my setup for ANB AIO. Feel free to copy my entire setup if it works for you. Hopefully this bot kills for you tomorrow and you're able to cop a pair. So for the last bot of the day, we have the shit bot, or known as TSB. If you watched my last video, you know that I love this bot right now. This is one of my favorite bots, and I'm very excited to be using it. Shout out to Trees916 from the Chef's Table. That man is amazing. He actually let me use this copy, and he gave me accounts to use. Who do you know that does that? So much love to you. I really appreciate you, and I hope one day I can pay you back. Now let's get into the setup of TSB. So for my task, I select my region, which is the United States, and then the product link. And this is where you can choose which one you want. So I'm gonna choose the boys for now, or the GS sizes. And then if you want random sizes, you just leave this blank. If you want a size range, then you could type something like this. You want size 7, 8, 9. That's how you do a size range. Or you could just do a single size as well. Then for my profiles, I just selected all of my available profiles. I don't know how many profiles that I have right now, but we'll see right after this. And for my proxies, I'm using my Hollow ISPs, my run residential proxies, and my hollow residential proxies as well. For my accounts, I just went ahead and selected all of my accounts because I obviously want them all, or you can go in and select it one by one. And then I have required login in. You obviously need this because you need a sneakers account to enter the draw. I don't have scheduled task on because I'll be here for the drop, and you want to have the NSWBA on. This is the mode that cooks every single drop, so definitely be using this. And then I have on headless browsers. Headless just means that the browsers won't actually pop up on your screen. Like if you've seen in my Essence video, you see that browsers pop up. You don't want this. If you're like me and you have 400 tasks, your computer's dead. So for my accounts, I have some of them gen by hand. Around 50 of them were generated by me, and most of this is actually from trees. This really long list. Again, shout out to you, bro. I really love you for this. And in total, we have 208 accounts. For my profiles, I have a total of 122 profiles. You want to get this as close to one profile per task as possible. For my case, I can't do this because I don't have enough cards, but if you do have enough cards, definitely do that. And for my proxies, I have more proxies than I need. In my list, I have 1,000 proxies, but just in case one gets banned, I want it to rotate out to the next working proxy. And then I obviously have my webhook set up. And then in my cookie jar, I have local set up right now, but I'm actually going to change this to some other proxy. I don't want to end up banning my local over some cookies. Also, make sure that you gen cookies before the drop. I try to get 3 cookies per task. I don't know if this is actually necessary, but just in case some of the cookies are invalid, I want them to have a backup. So that's pretty much it for this setup. Like I said in my last video, I'm really loving this bot. Just how easy it is to use, I'm definitely loving it. So now that we're done with all of our bots, let me show you guys how you can cop manually. So my best bet for copying manually is using my groups monitors. There's plenty of free cook groups out there. I can't say that all of them have monitors, but for the ones that do, you definitely want to utilize this. The reason I say this is because if anything shock drops, you can catch it in an instant before people have time to set up their bots. For example, I'm in my group right now. This is our monitors. We have it all set up across all Shopify sites. So let's say something dropped, I could easily come over here, click the add to cart button, and it'll go ahead and try to fill out my information for me. Most cook groups will have this feature, so definitely use it to your advantage. Speaking of cook groups, let's hear a word from my cook group, the Chef's Table, and sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by the Chef's Table. I've been with the Chef's Table for almost a year now, and I gotta say that this is by far my favorite group I've ever worked with. I'm sure you guys have seen them in my videos. Everything that I cop is because of them. The Chef's Table is not your average group, with everything from their amazing group buys to their blazing fast monitors with over 200 plus sites, early links and site lists for all major releases, add to cart monitors, low-key cooks such as PlayStation 5s, Xbox Series X, cards, coins, everything you can name. My favorite thing about the Chef's Table is the helpful staff. With it being such a small community, all your needs and questions will be answered within minutes. If you're looking for a cook group to join and extend your reselling game, I highly recommend the Chef's Table. If you're interested in joining the Chef's Table, I'll leave their Twitter link in the description so you can follow them, turn post notifications on so you can be alerted when they restock. So if you want to cop manually, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, sneakers is your best bet. I know everybody hates sneakers. It's very, very hard to hit, but what I recommend you doing if you want to actually win on sneakers is you want to use as many devices as possible and as many accounts as possible. So if you have a computer, a laptop, a phone, an iPad, you want to use all 4 of those devices, but make sure each one of them has a unique connection. What most people don't realize is when they're entering sneakers by hand, they're actually entering from the exact same connection. So you're entering the draw on a single Wi-Fi signal. So most of the time, this actually will stop you from winning the draw. It's very possible that you win on multiple accounts, but just to be safe, make sure you have unique connections. Also, you want to use different information. If you only have one card, try to borrow someone else's card, like your mom, your dad, friend, anybody. Just use their card and pay them back afterwards. Same with the address. You want to use a unique address across every single account. If you don't have different addresses you can send the shoes to, you can do a simple trick which is called jigging. Jigging is just a method that you use to change your information slightly. So if my name is Jordan, I can just throw another N at the end of my name. And if I live on 123 Fake Street, instead of using ST, I can use the actual word street. This may seem really obvious, but whenever Nike looks at this, it won't actually filter out based on the exact same address. So your next actual hope is Foot Locker and Foot Action, Champs, Eastbay, all of those sites. This actually might be worse than sneakers. At least with sneakers, you enter the draw, you wait 3 minutes, you take your quick L and move on about your day. But as you know, foot site drops can take a very long time. If you were trying to cop on the last drop, I can't remember the exact shoe that it was on, but if you saw, Foot Locker actually implemented a queue. Since it's new, most bots probably actually will die during the drop since they don't know how it really works. If this is the case, you could definitely take advantage of this. Get multiple devices and enter the queue as many times as possible. Like I said for sneakers, use a unique connection so you don't get banned and multiple requests aren't sent from the same thing. The more times you enter the queue, the better your chances. Although if they don't implement the queue and it's the regular release method that we're used to, you want to just stick to the usual game plan. Just try to be as quick as possible, select your size, add to cart. If it doesn't add to cart, try to spam it, but don't spam it too much to where it comes up with a captcha box. Just in case you do end up carting, make sure that you have all your information already stored into your account or you have an autofill set up. Most of the people that I hear complaining about copying, they are trying to type in their information during the drop. That doesn't work. You only have a certain amount of time to enter all your information, and if the server crashes, you're done for. So you want to be as quick as possible. For example, if I got the shoes in my cart, I go ahead and click checkout. It goes there and it already fills out all of my information. And then I go ahead and click save continue and it has my payment information and I can submit the order. Very easy, very simple, very quick. If you're curious at what autofill I'm using Flow autofill. I end up paying about 60 bucks for Flow. It's very cheap compared to other bots out there and other autofills. But if you don't feel like paying for something, you can go to the Chrome web store and you can find this autofill. I used this some years back and I was easily copying Supreme every drop. So definitely give this a try. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope you guys have learned something. I hope you're able to cop tomorrow. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section below and I'll answer them as quick as possible. Definitely make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.